I have to say, Maria, I laugh at the Democrats who are now all of a sudden so interested in the Epstein files. For 4 years, Joe Biden and the Democrats did absolutely nothing about this story. We know that Jeffrey Epstein had a lot of connections with left-wing politicians and left-wing billionaires. And now President Trump has demanded full transparency from this. And yet somehow the Democrats are attacking him and not the Biden administration, which did nothing for 4 years.
Silly Vice President JD Vance pouring fuel on a fire that Trump really wants to go away, and that's the unwillingness to release the Epstein files. The weird cover up and the strange behavior from Trump as this story was developing. He just wants it to go away, but JD Vance decided to reignite this issue during an interview with Maria Bartiromo. And he's decided to try to kind of twist this to make it about Democrats. As we've said on the show multiple times, for me, for anyone who's actually paying close attention to this story, this is not a partisan issue. Okay, there's weirdo perverts on both sides of the political aisle who are very likely implicated in this Epstein situation. But the real question is, what was Epstein really about? Who were the other individuals involved in abusing minors? And more importantly, why were there cameras in the Epstein property? Was there a possible blackmail operation that is basically having our elected lawmakers serve the interests of a foreign country as opposed to our own country? These are the real questions. And the fact that JD Vance has brought this up and has decided to focus squarely on Democrats and make it a partisan issue, I think is hilarious. Because we can see through it, yeah.
And dumb, because you say, oh my God, if you saw the Epstein files, you see how terrible the Democrats are. Okay, then let's
release them.
Then let's see the Epstein files.
What's stopping you then?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you know this, JD, I don't know if you got the memo, but you guys won.
Yeah.
You're in charge right now. You could release them right now.
Yep.
So that's why, and there was a pile-on after he said this. Both left and right wingers were like, all right, then release it, D-head.
So
like,
dumb.
what are you waiting for?
He was asked about the alleged meeting he and other Trump officials were supposed to have last week to talk about their handling of the Epstein case. If you guys can remember, they then denied that they were gonna have the meeting, and then they had the meeting. But nonetheless, he admitted that they did have that meeting, but claimed that the Epstein case didn't even come up. It didn't even come up. He insisted that all Trump wants is to be fully transparent, everyone. Take a look.
On the Epstein issue, what the president has said very clearly, because we've had other meetings about that, is that he wants us to be fully transparent and he wants the credible information out there. So we're working to compile the thousands and thousands of documents that are out there for full transparency.
For full transparency, okay.
Yeah.
So before you chime in, I was really happy to see that someone who is on, he's definitely a right winger. He's on the PBD podcast, but he's been really great on this issue. Vinny called BS on JD Vance.
Yeah, no, Anna, that's what I was going to get to. Not Vinny per se. I didn't know that. There is great news in this because this Epstein file thing is making a lot of people on the right, a lot of people who voted for Trump, realize, oh, Trump and the guys I like might also be full of crap. And so that's a tough thing because once you're dug into a position and you formed your identity around it, right? It gets tough to say, yeah, but Joe Biden is too old, right? That was tough for the Democrats, okay? So now for the Republicans, it's tough for them to go, I thought Trump was the hero who was gonna be the populist and save us. But it turns out he's also full of crap.
But you know what?
That's a super tough thing for either side to do.
It is.
And now they're beginning to do it, both sides.
But I have to say that the silver lining in all of this is to see that people are actually way more committed to their values as opposed to the cult of personality that is Donald Trump. And you're about to see what I'm talking about in this next clip. Here's Vinny responding to JD Vance on the PBD podcast.
Unless something really major happens, this is gonna go down for Trump's second term as the biggest scandal. This entire situation, I get what JD Vance has to do, Pat, and say, the talking point is blame the Dems, but the Dems weren't the one promising that all this stuff was gonna get released, okay? Ghislaine Maxwell, who's convicted of child sex trafficking, okay? On top of conspiring to recruit and groom underage girls and all that stuff, okay? She sat down for 9 hours with Todd Blanche, okay? Do you guys know who Todd Blanche is?
No,
He's a deputy attorney general now. Guess who he used to be? Donald Trump's personal lawyer. So, okay, so you sent Donald Trump's old lawyer to go sit down with her, no cameras, no lie detector, no, just a closed door conversation. And we're supposed to believe that she just said Donald Trump wasn't on there. Okay, Trump wasn't at Epstein Island. I don't think he was on the island, but there was many other instances where you could be hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein and something crazy could have happened.
No, that's someone who's thinking critically about this whole situation, right? The Todd Blanche point was a very great point, a point that we've made on this show as well. You know, it seemed to kind of feed into the reality that it's just more of a cover-up than anything else.
Yeah, so look, the reason I brought up the Biden thing is because that was a seminal moment for a lot of Democrats. Not all Democrats, there's still a lot of Democrats who hold on to Biden would have won, Kamala ran a perfect campaign. So that exists, that cult still exists, right? But for tons of Democrats, and I would say now the majority for the first time, people are like, okay, now I get it. It turns out our leadership can also lie to us. It's not just Republicans who lie, Democratic leadership lies too.
Yep.
They all told us that Joe Biden was totally fine, and it turns out he can't even speak, right? So that bursts the bubble in a positive way. Epstein files is the equivalent of that for the right wing. So there's people going, look, you asked me to believe you on 100 things, and you said everything that was against you was fake news. And I went along with you on every one of those. But now you're telling me the guy that you were best pals with for 15 years, and you guys have said you were best friends in 18 different ways, that we have 1,000 pictures, 1,000 videos, you're all over the Epstein files, and then you say that you're for full transparency in that JD Vance clip. Full transparency, you literally told us that there were no clients.
I know.
There was no list, no file, that there weren't even any clients, and you were never going to prosecute anyone. And now you tell me that that's full transparency? Nah, that's not transparency at all. I mean, to think you're full of crap. There you go. Of course. Politicians are full of crap.
Okay, second Vinny video, because it's just, I love to see this happening. Let's watch.
Did he ever hang out at Epstein's house, or was he at a party where Epstein are there and maybe they recorded something?
So you're fully at the place where you're speculating that Trump might be tied to it.
Pat, because of the way that Trump and the administration and everybody's acting right now, you're acting guilty. You know what I mean? You're acting guilty. All the footage of the thing that they released that has 3 minutes missing. It's like the biggest bot, they botched the whole thing up. Okay, Trump should have just came out initially and said, you know what? Bongino and Cash Patel, they're all full of crap. That's what he should have said. Instead of saying, no, it's the Democrats, just like how they did with Russia collusion. It has no correlation to Russia collusion, okay? And the reason the Dems didn't release anything, PBD, because Bill Clinton is one of the biggest ones. His name is plastered all over it.
And it appears that so is Trump's. So for instance, Bill Clinton obviously did have ties to Epstein. We all know that. But just for the record, his spokesperson said in 2018 that Clinton had never visited the island. You can choose to believe that or not. I personally am not gonna believe what a spokesperson says. I'd need to see some evidence, but Trump didn't either. But he also flew on Epstein's plane. The two were best friends, according to Epstein. But JD conveniently left that part out of his whole spiel there. And so, look, the reason why Trump didn't say to Cash Patel and Bongino, release the files and be done with it, is because clearly he's worried about being, implicated in the Epstein files. That's the only way to read this.
Yeah, so here's my new rule. If someone is associated with Epstein, and the government hasn't released their files, assume they're guilty. Assume they're all guilty until we get the files. If you want to prove that you're innocent, then great, release them, okay? But if both the Democrats and the Republicans don't release them, we have to assume that every Democrat and every Republican on that list is a pervert, child molester freak, okay? And you can't say that about Democrats. Oh, goddamn right I can. Yes, I can. So do I think Bill Clinton and Donald Trump did it? Probably. And if they don't want people thinking that, They should release the goddamn files.
I agree. And finally, the only person who seems to not want to cover anything up is Thomas Massie, who announced this on X today. On September 3rd at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, Ro Khanna and I will be hosting a press conference at the Capitol, joined by survivors of Epstein and Maxwell's abuse, several of whom will be speaking out for the first time. The survivors deserve justice and Americans deserve transparency. What a stud, what an American hero. Thank you for doing that, but both to Massie and Khanna.
It often feels like they're the only two people working in Congress.
I know.
So thank you to Massie and Khanna for actually representing Americans and not caring about partisanship, but caring about the voters. They seem to be among the very few who do. And if, by the way, if your representative isn't acting like that and fighting for you on your behalf, that means they're probably corrupt and working for Israel or any other person or intelligence agency or government official or politicians who are trying to cover this up, okay? Assume guilt unless proven otherwise.
Yep.
Maybe that'll get the files released.
Okay, the bonus episode is gonna be so much fun. Don't miss it if you're a member, and if you're not a member, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? tyt.com/join, we'll see you there.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.